Hi there. Hello, dear guests. My name is Sandra Daniela Alexichuk. I'm the president of the social enterprise Namoy in Russia. This video is created as a part of our intellectual outputs, number three, for the Erasmus Plus project, which name is Young Ethical Leaders. It's a K2 project. I firstly want to start with few comments about the state of our world today. And to begin is that I want to apologize in behalf of the adults in Europe for the situation of all young people that are listening to our video now, as we are giving to you a world that frankly is a big mess. We look at climate change, at what's happening with the rise of sea level, with refugee crisis that's created, with the fact that even today in the modern age over 3 billion people live on less than $3 a day on a planet where 3 million people move every day from villages to cities and on and on and on. The question is how we can deal with the challenges, but we cannot deal without being leaders, and most important, ethical leaders that understand what's right and what's wrong and respects, of course, each other and live in loyalty with their team. But how do you become an effective ethical leader? This video will show you that. But first, we'll say a few words about leadership. Yes. Can leaders be developed? Many believe leaders are born. Others believe leadership is a learned skill. The truth is both are true constructs. Some are born with inherent skills that lend to be more influential than others, but all people can learn and develop skills um, that can enhance the talents we are born with. If people can develop leadership skills, then the real question is how does one develop as a leader, and is there a way to approach leadership development that makes sense for individuals at all stages of responsibility? Let's take a look at a comprehensive yet very easy way to understand the model of leader development. Leadership style starts with the ability to influence people, operations, organizations. This is having influence, but having influence is just a part of leadership development. Just because one can effectively influence other, that does not mean he or she makes a good decision or, of course, perform an ethical manner. Another important element is one's ability to think critically and make effective decisions. Effective leaders make good decisions. We cannot escape the reality that being an influencer decision maker will have the consequences. There are too many examples where solid ethical awareness from leaders were lacking and the results were tragic. Examples range from the way leaders conduct themselves and treat those they have influence over. This can be from small things to serious problems like genocide. So we need also ethics and moral courage. Firstly, ethical leaders act ethically as an inspiration to others. No single factor has a bigger impact on the ethicality of firm culture than the personal examples of a firm leader. Second, they communicate and manage their organization culture so as to promote ethical action by subordinates. To tell you an example, I personally had, from what I remember, a great leader, a boss that was always looking for other people's perspectives by asking, how this going to impact other people? Is this decisions the best for our organization? That was a good example. Professor Cropanzano and Walumbois have observed that most adults um, do have an adequate moral compass and therefore look outside themselves for guidance in moral dilemma situations. It is the leaders of the organization to whom they primarily look, and studies show that few things impact the ethical climate of a firm more than the actions of the leaders. Importantly, leaders and ethical actions are copied by subordinates even more readily than their ethical actions. From my life examples, when you have a coordinator boss that is always trying to bend the rules or break them, is creating a toxic environment, as people will do the same thing. Although it is especially important for leaders to act ethically, they are often particularly vulnerable in acting non-ethically. Professor Ten Bronzel and Bazerman note that it is clear that most people have high opinions of their own character and do not realize a substantial gap between how ethical they think they are and how ethical they truly are. I personally can tell about my ex-boss, who after the training sessions I coordinated, in case there were conflicts during the training with participants, he was making one-to-one meeting to create peace and fight with misunderstandings. But in reality, in other projects, when people were pointing at his horrible mistakes, he literally tried to destroy everyone in every way he could. By abusing people, trying to divide people, inventing lies, and he was just overconfident as being ethical, but in reality not. Believing that we are moral people and will automatically do moral things, many of us act with little self reflection and thereby make ethical mistakes. Overconfidence makes leaders particularly vulnerable because they have typically had a great success in their lives in the past. Another behavioral factor that particularly affects leaders is the instant entitlement bias. Studies show that if people are told that they are part of a team and they should divide resources allocated to the team, then these people tend to divide resources equally between team members. But if they are told that they have been selected as a leader of a team, they tend to keep as much the larger share of the resources for themselves. It is often shocking how top corporate officers and high government officials come to the view that the rule that applies to everyone does not apply to them. Remember, your actions have consequences. Realize what's moral and question your action. Put yourself in other shoes. Question your action to realize that decision and that idea is ethical is the best thing that you can do. Um, we're not perfect, but let's be realistic. Although there has been an interest in ethics for 1,000 years, very little theoretical research exists in the nature of leadership ethics. Ethical theory provides a set of principles that guidance leaders in making decisions about how to act and how to be morally decent. In the Western tradition, ethical theories typically are divided in two kinds: theories about conduct and theories about character. Ethics plays a central role in the leadership process because leadership involves influence, and leaders often can have a more power than followers. They have an enormous ethical responsibility for how they affect other people. Leaders need to engage followers to accomplish mutual goals. Therefore, it is important that they treat followers and their ideas with respect and dignity. Leaders also play a major role in establishing the ethical climate in the organizations. That role requires leaders to be particularly sensitive to the values and ideas they promote. Several prominent leadership scholars have made unique contributions to our understanding of ethical leadership. The theme common to these authors is an ethic of caring, which plays attention to the follower's needs and the importance of leader follower relationship. It is the duty of leaders to treat others with respect, to listen to them closely, and to be tolerant of opposing points of view. Ethical leaders serve others by being altruistic, placing others' welfare ahead of their own, sometimes, yes, in the offer to contribute to the common good. Justice requires that leaders place fairness at the center of decision making, including the challenging task of being fair to the individual while simultaneously being fair to the common interest of a community. Good leaders are honest. So, how does a leader effectively communicate and manages organization culture and create ethical action? Well, leaders must establish his or her aims, organization ethical norms. They must ask what do they stand for. They should set high expectations. The careful drafting with input from others in the organization of a code of ethics can be helpful. Then leaders must implement employment practices consistent with these overall goals. Of course, they must hire good people and punish those who violate the organization ethical norms. It turns out that leaders can use psychological knowledge to nudge employees to act more ethically. So, leaders should keep in mind people are themselves being mistreated. As leader, is your responsibility to put others ahead of you sometimes. Reason must explain the reason for taking the action that they take. For that helps one who they lead accept the decision. Also, studies show that employees are more likely to act unethically if they are exhausted. So, from my life example, I can say the same happened to with my coordinator boss when he was exhausted with his second job, that was and he was getting more and more unethical. In fact, people when were coming to his trainings, they noticed actually that he was not participating at all, and he was just sitting in another room working on his computer. Also, people tend to act less ethically if they are under acute time pressure. So this is another reason to be reasonable in placing demands upon employees. Remember, employees naturally focus upon goals that are set for them by supervisor. If unrealistic goals are set, especially those that carry punishment for failing to meet the others or extravagant rewards for exceeding them, then employees will tend to lose focus on their ethical aspects of their action. They will concentrate entirely in meeting the goal. Realistic goals and moderate rewards for making actually a very good combination. Finally, studies show that employees will tend to act more ethically if they are frequently reminded of the importance of a firm of living up to this kind of values. Effectively, leaders create legends that illustrate commitment of a firm culture. Remember, all your action send a message. Lead by example, love what you do, and do everything as ethically as possible.